Zoe Daniel has won the seat of Goldstein from Tim Wilson, the former ABC journalist, now to become an MP. Welcome to the program. Congratulations on your victory. Can I start by asking you, you may have been confident about your own chances, but were you expecting the sort of wave of independence that we saw get up last night?
Certainly not when I originally agreed to step into this, David, but I did come into it to win it. I thought we could be competitive, and I think what we saw was momentum that increased not only in the seat of Goldstein but in those other seats across the country during the campaign, as people recognised that there was an actual alternative in safe seats in many cases for the first time, and people really grasped that. It's a hugely positive moment, I think, in our political history, in the sense that this is a movement that has grown from community. It comes from the days of Cathy McGowan in Indi. Cathy's an old friend of mine. She started it, others have followed, and I sit here because a community organisation came to me and said, would you consider running as an independent? And the community got behind that. It's extraordinary. And
so the electorate then, the voters getting behind you as well as they have in so many of these other seats. You've heard the analysis of various people in the Liberals, the commentariat as well. Give us your analysis as to why we've seen this happen.
Because the Liberal Party lost its centre. People who would normally be small L Liberals or are potential swinging voters like me who sort of drift across the centre had no one to vote for. The Liberal Party had drifted so far to the right that people didn't feel represented. The Labor Party has had an identity crisis where it's been trying to represent the workers and the inner city professionals. And there are people like me who sit in the centre and go into the polling booth and think, who on earth will I vote for? And then all of a sudden, people like me popped up in seats and said, hey, here's an alternative. Here's someone who'll be a reasonable voice, who can negotiate with both sides, who can solve problems, who can collaborate on these really important issues. And issues that I think people feel like they haven't had an actual voice on in a seat like mine, like climate, where they feel like they weren't being represented by the local member.
Now, Labor may still get to a majority, but if they don't, given the results that we've seen so far, what would your position be? Would you be willing to support a minority Albanese government?
Look, I'm keen, like everyone else, to see the numbers, but I've said right from the beginning that I will be an independent. I'm not going to become a member of the Labor Party. I've never been a member of either political party, and I seek to represent my community, and that's what I will do. But also, my positions have been very clear through the campaign: climate, prosperity, integrity and gender equality. And they're the reasons that people voted for me. So they're the priorities that an incoming Labor government needs to have a good hard think about.
OK, but let me ask you a couple of those issues you raised there. Climate change. Will you be seeking a more ambitious policy from Labor?
Absolutely. I came into this campaign with a clear and stated target of 60% by 2030, and I think we need legislated targets so that the major parties don't get wriggle room on net zero by 2050. And I think we need that to create that accountability. So, yes, I came in with a stated target of 60%. People voted for me based on that, and that's what I'll argue for.
Do you accept people voted for Labor as well here, though, and do they have a mandate for their position?
Sure. They have a mandate for their position, and I have a mandate for the position of my community, and I'll go in and argue that. I also think that any reasonable person looking at the climate targets that we have and the progress that we're already making, particularly because of actions of state governments, would think that we can afford to actually be a bit more ambitious. So I think we should try.
You mentioned gender equality. What does this new Labor government need to do that they've not already talked about doing when it comes to gender equality?
Look, I think the main thing is listening and acting. So there are things on the table that the Labor Party has said it will do, and I'll be there to hold them accountable to that. So the Respect at Work report recommendations, for example, narrowing the gender pay gap, more affordable, universal and flexible childcare. This is about enabling the women in our community to be part of the workforce and to really achieve their full potential. But the other thing, David, is violence against women and children. This is something that we have to address, and we really need a commissioner, I think, with a 10-year depoliticised plan to address that issue. So that's a key priority for me.
Finally, look, you're an independent, but everyone's going to be fascinated to see how this huge crossbench works and to what extent you work together. Give us a sense of how you will approach, what looks like a sizable crossbench. What sort of coordination, cooperation will there be?
Well, independents already communicate and collaborate, and that's a good thing. I think one of the failings of our two-party system has been their lack of capacity to do that and to achieve bipartisanship. I seek to be an honest broker from the crossbench, and yes, there will be conversations with my incoming fellow independents, but what Australia has elected on the crossbench this time around is a community crossbench, a group of people who seek to genuinely engage with and represent their communities, and I think that's a wonderful thing.
Zoe Daniel, thanks for joining us this morning.
A pleasure.